That was the case a year ago. Today, however, the Russian ambassador to Poland freely laid a wreath at the monument to Soviet soldiers in Warsaw. All the while, the square was protected by the police and assisted by a special group of people. However, it was not without protests. Why are you murdering innocent people? Mr. Editor, be careful because you will fall right over. Is this a threat? No, but be careful. Why are you murdering innocent people in Ukraine? We don't know what this is about. About innocent people in Ukraine. Do you not know what this is about? I do not know what this is about. Oh, what do you mean, oh? Russian Victory Day, celebrated on the 9th of May, is a date that is highly controversial because what for some meant victory, for others, another oppression. The cursed soldiers, the unbroken soldiers, those of whom no trace was to remain, are returning and taking their rightful place in our Polish collective memory. The world was never to hear of them again, simply because they disagreed with how their beloved homeland looked after World War II.
System narzucony siłą.
The system imposed by force, it can be said, did not satisfy the majority of society. The communists used a lot of lies to assure people that they had the sincerest intentions, while in the end it was always, one could say, such a bitter aftertaste of the truth that people received. There is a need for ever-increasing defence spending in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries, President Andrzej Duda said during his visit to the United States. Former United States President Donald Trump also spoke about this. They are now being followed by action. The United Kingdom and the foreign minister there are talking about the fact that the United Kingdom will spend more than 2% of its GDP on defence. Are we at home also safe? Today I'm investigating.
Na obronność. Czy my w kraju także jesteśmy bezpieczni? Dzisiaj sprawdzam.
The upcoming NATO summit must show that all allies are on track to fulfil the promise made in Wales in 2014 to spend 2% of GDP on defence. Then we must move quickly to establish 2.5% as a new benchmark for all NATO members. These words are a guarantee that NATO member countries are already talking about raising the threshold set at 2% to 2.5%. This is the result of Polish President Andrzej Duda's proposal in Washington. I in the Senate, the White House and the House of Representatives spoke about my proposal to increase defence spending to 3% of GDP, because the situation has changed significantly over the last 10 years. The United Kingdom is going after the blow.
Today, Mr. Speaker, in conjunction with my right honourable friend, the Foreign Secretary, I am announcing a package of measures to make clear to Russia that we will not tolerate such apparent escalations.
This is important primarily because the need not to escalate but to fulfil obligations to contribute 2% of GDP has so far been loudly demanded by Donald Trump. He was criticised for it. Now there is support from the United Kingdom. The expectation once voiced by President Trump that member countries should bear their own defence and not hide behind the United States forces is being fulfilled. The United Kingdom is a faithful ally of the United States, and it has to be expected that this idea of President Duda would find support here. What does more money for defence mean for our security? Withdrawn by Putin, even before the invasion, this $780 or $760 billion, calculated by world economists, is beyond Russia's GDP and beyond its capabilities, and this allows Russia to wage war for about 10 more years. Far more important than the political bias of those in power against their predecessors is our security. Editor Holdinska, TV Republika. This Shiazun neighbourhood in the Bemowo district of Warsaw consists of multi-family buildings serving as student dormitories and single-family houses. The land is owned by the State Treasury. The Academy of Special Education was a tenant here for 5 years. Today, the lease expires, and the residents have applied to extend it. The application is submitted, but it is not yet processed. All in all, I do not know how it will look legally, because it is unlawful as of tomorrow. On the 17th of April, that is 3 weeks before the end of the lease, residents were to move out of the occupied premises. Due to the expiry of the leases for the buildings, in the student rooms on the 9th of May 2024, it will be necessary for the Treasury Property Board to conclude a new contract with each student. As for the other premises located in the estate, in accordance with the above lease agreement, upon expiry of the term for which it was concluded, they must be handed over to the lessor free of belongings and persons. except for premises occupied for an indefinite period. The area is inhabited by 1,500 people. The city has declared that it will take over the management of the estate, and the premises, which are rented by students, will be given a lease for another 3 months and then for a year. Residents have repeatedly appealed to the city to address the issue, with no response. That's why residents raised the issue at the last session of the City Council in the form of a protest. This did not please Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski. You can shout. It's a pity you didn't have the courage to come to City Hall and talk after shouting. Such words completely contradict what the public, the residents of the neighbourhood, are saying. We wrote so many emails to him, also called the Secretariat, whether there is any chance to meet at all. We always got the answer that, please wait. A spokesman for Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, in response to our questions, refers to the position of the City Hall published at the end of April. In it, the city gave assurances that the estate will continue to be used for residential purposes and that the houses will be successively renovated. The Warsaw authorities have been trying to get rid of these residents from this place for a long time, in my opinion. That's why residents want a serious debate, not pretending the problem doesn't exist. They're afraid of evictions, of course, and in my opinion, this lack of communication, these fears deepen. Therefore, it is important enough for the city to finally engage in this dialogue. Residents want an emergency session of the City Council, long-term leases and concrete talks with Warsaw authorities. In October 2021, one of the symbols of the site was taken out of service. Nothing has happened here for many years. To me, it's very sad and unfortunate that this is all deteriorating. The incompetence of the city authorities, lack of goodwill, or perhaps intentional action? Putting the residents in such a difficult situation is reminiscent of the days when the reprivatization mafia operated in Warsaw. In theory, it's not allowed to sell a tenement with tenants, but it is allowed to sell shares of a tenement with tenants. Residents of the Szyjazn neighbourhood remind the President of Warsaw, Rafał Trzaskowski, that he promised to look into the matter 5 years ago. During that time, however, nothing has happened. Although no one is officially talking about evictions, the fate of the residents is clearly in question. The big strike against the Green Deal is tomorrow at 12, but today part of the agricultural community has already begun an occupation strike of the Polish Sejm. Farmers are embittered that Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has had no time to meet them for several weeks. We just want to protest. We want to show that the problem is not settled at all. We want a concrete, substantive conversation. We want to know concretely when the border will be closed, and please do not tell me that it is not possible. The strikers do not rule out a hunger strike. They are demanding the closure of Poland's eastern border, from where food of poor quality is expected to flow. Farmers are demanding that the Green Deal be thrown out. From our side, these demands have our full support. We are against the Green Deal, and not tactically today, but fundamentally. But farmers are unlikely to count on the Green Deal being thrown out by the current government. Is total abandonment of the Green Deal possible by you or not? We have to take care of our heritage, nature, to meet these challenges for the future, for generations. So a complete abandonment, I think, is not acceptable. PSL knows that before the Euro elections it has to at least give the appearance of not supporting the Green Deal. Hence it talks about the problems, but about throwing the project out completely, it does not make a clear statement. These are problems that cannot be solved in 2 or 3 weeks. PSL will throw out the Green Deal. PSL has consistently shown that we are changing the Green Deal so that it does not negatively affect farmers' activities. In addition to the strike in the Sejm, tomorrow a large demonstration will march through the streets of Warsaw. The protest will begin at noon local time at the Castle Square in Warsaw. From there, organisers plan to move in front of the Sejm in Wiejska Street.
Jutro protest rolników, czy Lewica zamierza wspierać protestujących rolników?
Tomorrow's farmers' protest. Does the left intend to support the farmers' protest? I don't know what the demands will be. Down with the Green Deal. It's quite unconstructive. I would like it to be constructive, because the Green Deal is, and it needs to be, somehow adapted to reality, to the requirements of the 21st century. Well, yes, because after all, the planet is on fire. Here no one needs to be convinced how important the Green Deal is. Anyone who knows Silesia and has breathed in, even for a moment, the air in Silesia, knows very well that the issue of environmental protection and climate is very often a matter of life or death. and the health of our children.
Kwestia życia i śmierci i zdrowia naszych dzieci.
The ruling party wants to marginalise tomorrow's protest, which is expected to be attended by tens of thousands of people, alleging politicisation.
To jest niewielki
This is not a big farmers' protest, but a political action by solidarity, so it has nothing to do with the fate of farmers.
z losem rolników.
This is an obvious manipulation, hence the reactions of the organisers. Thomas Obszański, chairman of the Farmers' Solidarity, announced that politicians from neither side will speak. Participation has been announced by Gazeta Polska clubs from all over the country, which indicate that they are protesting against the Green Deal, which is a huge threat, in fact, to each of us. Gazeta Polska clubs always represent the interests of Poles. After all, it's about heating methods, transportation. Tomorrow, farmers from Solidarity will be protesting, but it really involves a great threat. That's why we also want to participate. Everyone can and should participate because everyone will pay more. At the doorstep awaits the so-called ETS2, the Buildings Directive, and whether it's a farmer, a steelworker or a miner, he lives somewhere, and he will bear the consequences of this Green Deal, these directives, all the regulations that will carry the plan prepared by Brussels to make Central and Eastern Europe poorer. Above all, they mean our country, Poland. Hence the huge opposition of Poles to the crazy regulations of the Eurocrats that the current government agrees to. In order for the pro-government media to have something to cover tomorrow's event, the government has announced a government reconstruction for tomorrow, experts point out.
To jest próba jak gdyby wywołania, spuszczenia powietrza z balonu.
This is an attempt to deflate the balloon that is increasingly being pumped in the sense of social discontent, the crisis it is brewing in the context of EU politics and beyond. This seems to be the motivation behind it. There are protests, something is being done. What? I'm changing the ministers. For what reason? This is a completely different topic.
Wymieniam ministrów. Z jakiego powodu? No to już jest zupełnie inny temat.
Hence the appeals to Poles. Don't be fooled and come to Castle Square in Warsaw tomorrow at 12. Adrian Borecki, TV Republica.